about dealing with the crisis from the start.
John Tory declared a state of emergency for the city of Toronto today.
It was a moment in March when, for the first time, and what has now been several times, we went into a room and I had asked Dr. Davila to give us some projections if we did nothing, because we hadn't done any lockdowns or anything at that time, that we could lose 8,000 people in the city of Toronto. The first question I asked after I sort of pulled myself up off the floor was, well, what do we have to do about this? And that was when we made the first moves to say we were going to sort of shut various things down.
Everything was shut down from the start. We didn't know much of what was going to be happening or what you were dealing with at the time. How do you go about making those original decisions?
Well, it has changed. It's a very insightful question, actually, because I think the fear was so great in the spring of the unknown. No one had experienced this. And I think as a result, the kind of deference to the experts, the fear of the unknown, made people much more compliant to just saying, fine, if there's going to be a lockdown, we'll all just go along, and everybody stayed home and nobody went to work and companies closed and there was nothing much said.
You've created a dynamic relationship there with Dr. Davila and public health staff, and obviously your staff as well. Give us some insight into the dynamic behind closed doors.
I think it's worked well, and she knows my job is to ask 1,000 questions, because in the end, much of what's been done has been her ability to order those things independently, and I respect that. She knows I do, and she's very clear on that.
Obviously, you've had to forge a relationship, a different sort of one, with Premier Ford throughout this as well. You guys haven't necessarily been on the same page over the years, and yet this has forced you to work together. How difficult has that been for you?
We were seen to be engaged in conflict. If we were out sort of having battles every night, whether it was about the health or anything else, people would lose confidence. So I think we've worked really hard when we've had differences, which haven't been serious. I mean, like really serious, but when we've had them, we've talked about them behind closed doors, as it were, and been able to present a pretty united front, which is, I think, what people have the right to expect when you're in an emergency.
How do you bear the weight of the responsibility with this on top of what the mayor's office already carries?
Well, I mean, in this case, you ended up with two jobs in one, because the job of keeping the city going and being accountable for what goes on with the budget or the snow clearing or, a host of other things is still there. What you do is you try to do the two jobs, because the second one, of course, is managing the pandemic. But the main thing is just to sort of maintain your sense of balance and to make sure you have the support of a great team. It's become much more difficult to make the decisions, actually. You might think it's become easier because you've done it before. It's become more difficult because you have to go through much more balancing now of people's different interests. And there's a lot more debate about it. Is it effective or not? Any decision you make is going to hurt somebody as much as it's meant to help. And that any decision you make, there's going to be a much more organized, group of some kind or other that's going to probably be opposed to it. And that's the nature of public office. But you're certainly more conscious of it now.
Coming up, we dive into the programs that were created for the people and businesses in Toronto and get the mayor's perspective on helping the city's most vulnerable.
It's been a tumultuous year on markets, to say the least, but it looks like there will be one clear winner to emerge once we flip the calendar to 2021. Plus, which company's stock saw the biggest gain this year? Apple,